Video game-inspired board games have become a thriving genre, capturing the essence of their digital counterparts while offering fresh and exciting mechanics. But not all adaptations are created equal. Some truly elevate the source material, immersing players in rich worlds with deep strategy, thematic storytelling, and heart-pounding action. Today, we're counting down the top 10 board games based on video games that are easily available. Welcome to nerdsection.com. First up, let's talk about a game that brings us into a world of monster hunting and legendary battles. Number 10, Monster Hunter World, the board game. Few franchises are as perfectly suited for a board game adaptation as Monster Hunter, and this 2022 release by Steamforged Games brings the thrill of the hunt to tabletop. Players take on the role of hunters, working cooperatively to track and battle massive creatures like Rathalos, Diablos, and Nergigante. Instead of dice-based combat, the game uses a deck-building system where players must carefully manage stamina, timing, and attack combos, just like in the video game. Each monster has a unique AI-driven attack pattern, making every hunt feel dynamic and strategic. Looting fallen creatures to craft better gear is, of course, a key element, ensuring progression mirrors the rewarding cycle of the video game. With high-quality miniatures and a deeply immersive campaign mode, Monster Hunter World, the board game captures the heart-pounding excitement of its source material beautifully. And if you would like to support our channel, you can find a link to this and all other games in the video description. Now let's jack into the neon-drenched underbelly of Night City. Number 9. Cyberpunk 2077: Gangs of Night City. Cyberpunk 2077's chaotic underworld comes to life in this area control and territory influence game. Players lead rival gangs vying for dominance in the neon-lit streets, forging alliances, engaging in brutal combat, and hacking their way to power. The game embraces the cyberpunk theme with asymmetrical gang abilities, high-stakes decisions, and a dynamic event system that ensures no two games play the same. With rich lore and a focus on strategic conflict, Gangs of Night City captures the ruthless, high-tech, low-life essence of Cyberpunk 2077 in a deeply engaging way. From neon to something a bit more fantastical. Number 8, Small World of Warcraft. What happens when you take the war-torn lands of Azeroth and mix them with the lighthearted, conquest-driven gameplay of Small World? You get Small World of Warcraft, a delightfully chaotic territory control game where fantasy races with unique abilities fight for dominance. Players draft combinations of iconic Warcraft races, like Night Elves, Orcs, and Pandaren, each paired with special powers that shake up the game. But true to Small World's core mechanics, civilizations rise and fall, meaning players must time their expansions and declines carefully. The addition of magical artifacts, legendary locations, and faction-based interactions makes this more than just a reskin. It's a love letter to World of Warcraft that delivers both strategic depth and nostalgic charm. Next up, a game that channels the adrenaline rush of a multiplayer shooter. Number 7, Adrenaline. How do you turn an arena shooter into a board game? Czech Games Edition cracked the code with Adrenaline, a game that distills the essence of classic FPS titles like Quake and Unreal Tournament into a slick, Euro-style experience. Players navigate a modular board, picking up weapons, gathering ammo, and, most importantly, blasting each other into oblivion. The damage system works like a kill tracker, rewarding well-placed shots and combo attacks while preventing players from feeling completely eliminated. Instead of relying on dice, combat is streamlined with action selection and area control mechanics, making it more about positioning and strategy than luck. It's fast, it's furious, and it brilliantly captures the mayhem of arena shooters without needing a single trigger pull. But what if you want to slow things down and cultivate a peaceful farm? Number 6, Stardew Valley, the board game. Few games capture the cozy, heartwarming essence of their source material, as well as Stardew Valley, the board game. Designed by Eric Barone and Cole Medeiros, this cooperative game lets players work together to restore their grandfather's farm, befriend the townsfolk, fish, mine, and, of course, fight off Joja Corp's encroaching influence. With randomized goals and plenty of paths to success, it's a love letter to the original game's community building and relaxed pacing. Despite its inviting aesthetic, Stardew Valley is a surprisingly deep game with tough choices, requiring careful planning to achieve victory before the seasons slip away. By the way, did you know the mobile version of Stardew Valley has a top-secret multiplayer mode? Check check out our video on video games by nerd section. But if you prefer harsh survival over wholesome farming, our next game is for you. Number 5, Frostpunk, the board game. Based on the brutally challenging survival city builder, Frostpunk, the board game, plunges players into the desperate struggle of managing humanity's last city in a frozen apocalypse. Designed by Adam Kopinski, this cooperative game forces players to make gut-wrenching decisions. Do you enact child labor laws to keep the city alive, or sacrifice citizens' hope for a shot at long-term survival? The board itself features a central generator that must be managed carefully to avoid catastrophe. With deep strategy, moral dilemmas, and a constantly shifting crisis system, Frostpunk is as tense and immersive as its digital counterpart, making every victory feel hard-earned. From cold desolation to peaceful landscapes and satisfying puzzle building. Number 4. Dorfromantik, the board game. Inspired by the award-winning video game, Dorfromantik, the board game, transforms the serene tile-placing experience of the original into a cooperative board game that emphasizes beauty, strategy, and relaxation. Players work together to create an idyllic landscape, carefully placing hexagonal tiles to connect villages, rivers, and forests while fulfilling objectives. The game's campaign mode introduces new challenges and mechanics over time, much like the evolving demands of the video game. Dorfromantik is an excellent example of how a video game's core aesthetic and philosophy can be captured in a way that feels uniquely suited to board gaming, offering a meditative yet deeply engaging experience. Next, we venture into a world of monster hunting and legendary battles. Number 3, The Witcher, Old World. Set before the events of Geralt's adventures, The Witcher, Old World explores the early days of Witchers, when different schools competed for dominance. Players take on the role of young Witchers, seeking fame and fortune by slaying monsters, training, and engaging in tavern brawls. The deck building and adventure mechanics allow for plenty of customization, while the richly illustrated board brings the continent to life. Whether you're a die-hard Witcher fan or just love a good fantasy board game, Old World delivers both strategic depth and narrative immersion. The Witcher Old World is just a great medieval-themed board game. Our video on the top 10 medieval-themed tabletop games is perfect for you if you want to delve deeper into this thrilling world. Up next, we shift gears to economic strategy and industrial expansion. Number 2, This War of Mine, the board game. Based on the harrowing video game about civilians trapped in a war-torn city, This War of Mine, the board game, is a gut-wrenching cooperative experience. Players manage a group of survivors, scavenging for food, fending off raiders, and making impossible moral choices that impact the narrative. The game features a story-driven campaign with thousands of branching decisions, making every playthrough unique. Its emotional weight and immersive mechanics make it one of the most impactful board games ever made. And finally, at the top of our list, Number 1, Slay the Spire, the board game. The hit roguelike deck builder makes a triumphant leap to the tabletop, perfectly capturing the strategic card play and branching paths that made the digital version so addictive. Players build their decks from scratch, acquiring powerful relics, managing risk, and fighting through procedurally generated encounters. With cooperative and solo modes, Slay the Spire, the board game, is a near-perfect translation of its source material, proving that the best video game adaptations don't just copy, they innovate. And if you prefer a more Caribbean theme, then the next video is perfect for you, the best pirate tabletops of all time.